I want to get into the River Lightning node specifically. We've got a lot to cover here because you have been making headlines in the Lightning ecosystem for a few weeks now. People shocked, surprised, and just wondering what is going on at River with all these channel closures. I'd love to hear your kind of like behind the scenes story prior to closing some of these channels. What was going on in your guys' head? What led up to this decision?
Yeah, I think it's funny that like internally it was the most uneventful thing you could possibly imagine. Externally, it became this it wasn't really like a PR issue. It was more just like a stir. We created a stir.
Yeah.
But it was internally, it was the most boring thing. I was like, we have risk controls internally about how much Bitcoin we want to keep hot at any given time, and Bitcoin on Lightning nodes are hot. And so we started to bump up against these thresholds. And so, we were like, hey, we need to get some Bitcoin off our nodes, keep things below our risk tolerances. And so it was really kind of, just a bulk action that we had done before, but not to that extent per se. And we just closed a bunch of channels that we didn't need. We didn't impact our payment processing success rates at all. But what it created was a huge drop in the capacity of the Lightning network. And we sort of just been reframing this as like, well, guys, like we actually did just make the Lightning network more capital efficient. And capacity is a really crap metric. We should really be focusing on, we want the capacity as low as possible. And we want to be processing the most payments as possible with the least capacity. That's actually what we want to be targeting. The problem is sort of the denominator of capacity is the only public number. The numerator of transactions processed is not public. So we're trying to reframe the conversation there, because really it's in everyone's best interest to have as little Bitcoin hot as possible. Makes everything more secure. And we're going to be doing more. But what ended up happening was, a lot of the growth of the capacity was dumb growth. It was, caused by not even us directly. Like we would just have huge peers where we'd, much bigger companies than our own, where our channel with them would get depleted. So we'd just auto open a new one, which really wasn't even increasing the risk for us. But like our peer would just never close these old channels where all the capacity was on their side. And this was seen as capacity in the network. So we didn't just close channels where we had capacity on our side, where we wanted to reclaim that Bitcoin and get it off. We also just closed a bunch of channels where they were just totally depleted on our end and we didn't need. And that was actually the majority of the capacity that got killed. And we'll probably be reducing the capacity of the network by another couple hundred Bitcoin in the next few days here.
Okay.
So FYI.
Appreciate the heads up.
Not because we're hacked.
And I don't remember the exact timeline of events, but I believe you guys reduced the public capacity by a couple hundred Bitcoin. I don't know if you were the first to do it or if
we were the ones that caused that. We were the ones that caused that. So we did it, and then it was an afternoon, and then I woke up in the morning and someone tweets at me or I think it was Amboss, like is everything okay at River? What's going on? And I was like, huh? And I said, look at the capacity chart, and I'm like, oh no, lesson learned, So then it was really an opportunity to educate people, but the lesson learned was before doing any major channel management, to give people a heads up online, because it just wasn't something we thought about. So we learned, and we're gonna tweet anytime we do something like that again.
And so I think there were a couple other companies that also did similar actions in the days following. Was this just them also going, hey, River did this, and maybe we should try the same, because we don't want to have excess capacity on Lightning either?
I think probably. I don't know for sure if we set the trend. It kind of seems like we did, because it's been going down ever since.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it seems like other people are going, yeah, you know what? Geez, why do we have all these channels we don't need? Right, let's close them. So yeah, maybe we're starting a trend here.
Yeah, and still to this day, it's I think been a few weeks. Payment success rate. Have you noticed any change, better or worse?
No, really, the driver of payment success rates for us are rarely any large, um, sort of rarely relate to any liquidity issues from like in sort of our vicinity of the network. It's usually around long tail destinations attempting to get paid, or or issues at popular peers, right? So like somebody, for example, changes their IP address, some big node changes their IP address and doesn't give the network a heads up. So payments start to fail. Um, those are sort of the drivers of failures mostly.
I see. Now there were a couple of theories I saw on Twitter, and maybe I saw in some videos of folks going, maybe River is closing kind of public channels and opening private channels. Maybe that's what they're thinking. Is there any nothing to it, eh?
Nope, nope.
Now,
We just don't need them.
yeah. So what I want to talk a little bit about the private side, because that is the other part of capacity that doesn't get shown in this like public capacity metric.
Mm-hmm.
Um, how do you guys think about the role of private channels at River? Like, how important are they versus the public channels that we see?
Yeah, so I believe we have a few private channels between us and some peers. Um, but we do use private channels internally. So the way our node architecture works today is we have the two River nodes, River 1, River 2, that we run for redundancy. Um, and then on the back end, we have two internal nodes that have channels with the routing nodes. And the internal nodes are the ones that actually originate all the payments, both like generating invoices and paying out. Part of the reason for that, most of the reason for that, was just an early architectural decision after consulting with people in the know when we first launched the company, to kind of keep the databases separate. Like we have these routing nodes. We were kind of worried about performance long term, of like, we didn't want the nodes generating all the invoices to also be the nodes doing all the routing,
Mm-hmm.
for scalability reasons. And so that's why, so we use private channels internally for that.